In our session, we will be discussing about the datum planes, understand selection method in Pro Engineer, and how to create datum plane by using different constraint approach, and how to create datum plane on the fly during the feature creation method, and how to create datum axis by using different constraint methods, and finally we will see how to create datum points. First we will be understanding about the datums, how we can define datums that will look. Datum planes are with no mass or volume. These are the references which we refer, and those helps us for creating the model. That means it acts as a reference for sketching a feature, orienting a model. And for complex model creation, you need to define at the requisite or proper position your datum plane to define the feature. And one of the very important feature which you can see that in the fly you can create also the datum. That is, during the feature creation method you can directly create the datum plane as well, or offline you can create the datum plane also. Next we will see how the datum planes are arranged. By default, all the three datum planes which you can see in Pro Engineer, each are mutually perpendicular to each other. These are listed in the model tree, right, top and front, and these are mutually perpendicular to each other. And you can rename the datum planes if required. We will see how to rename the datum planes. Just you right click it and you can directly go to rename, and you can rename the datum plane for your recognition or for a particular typical requirement. You can define this for reference purpose a particular name. Why we need to have datum planes that will look in our particular exercise? This is the model. If you see the insert here, the first we have developed this particular feature which is basically placed with respect to the top plane. If you go to edit definition, you can see there is the sketch which you have placed in your top plane. If you go to Control D, you can see there is the top plane with respect to which you have positioned these, and rest of all these two planes are perpendicular to this top plane. Just like that, when you want to build the second feature, this we have placed with respect to front. This you can also check it here. This is the front orientation. Here we have positioned the sketch, and rest of all these two datum planes are referenced with respect to this plane. For example, if you build with respect to this front plane a new feature, I am selecting this, going to placement, going to define, I am selecting this front plane, go to sketch, and here I will be cutting a pocket. This is the pocket. You define the dimensions, how far it is from the edge, between this edge and this edge, what is the distance, 75, how far it is from the bottom, this you can define, and finally the width of the cut. And finally you can go to OK, and you can switch the side. What about the depth? Depth is, let us say, 55, and you can go to cut, and you can place the feature at that particular orientation. This is the top plane. Initially we have selected for creating this base feature, then we have selected the front plane to position this particular feature. And you can do smartly selection for selecting your features, geometry, datums, etc. And how to do this? If you want to select through selection filter here, you can select the feature. These are the features. Only you can filter the datums, so that features you cannot select, only datum you can select. Here you can do the filter. If you have annotation, you can select annotation also. Annotation we'll see typically when we discuss whole, what annotations by default you are having and how to control that. This is the annotation toolbar control. You can control the display of annotation, that I will also discuss in brief. Different datum options are there. If you see, you have sketch, you have planes, you have axis, you have curves, you have point, you have coordinate. So these are the different datum options available. Either you can go to insert and go to model datum and have all these options, or through toolbar also you can get it. If you start a new session, you can see these are the datum toolbars, or you can go to insert and you can go to the model datum and you can have all these options here as well. It's very important that how you can define datum planes and you control the placement of the datum planes. So you have the datum placement dialog box. After selecting datum plane, you will be getting this option. You can change the datum plane size as well, and you can change the datum plane name also through properties. All these options I will be showing you. And when you create a datum plane by passing through certain point, that may be through axis, that may be through point or vertices, or maybe through plane, or maybe through cylinder. So when you refer this as a through option, and another reference which you take, axis to axis you can take, or point to point you can take, plane to cylinder you can take, that is through option. If you are taking plane through option and you want normal, that is possible. So where it is specified no, this you cannot create, you have to follow this dialog box and rules that we will see. Let us understand this by applying over the model how you can create the datum planes. This one model, if you want to create by selecting your first reference as the cylindrical surface of the top and second as the datum, how you can create tilted planes and other conditions also we will look into. If you select the datum plane, here you have three different tabs: placement, display and properties. You can give a name to this datum plane also. By default DTM1 you will be assigned. Let us go to placement and select the top surface first, then select the control key and select the another plane. And here you can see the options. You want through or tangent. You want this as through and this as offset. Then you can set the angles as well. You can control at a certain angle. So all these options you can play around here. If you want to have as a normal, you can define this. If you want to have as a parallel, you can define parallel to this, or you can have offset. So you can have angle from this plane with respect to the tangent selected. Just like that, here you can play around. You can have tangent and you can control the tangency, because here this will be locked to the tangent surface. So there will be no play around about the rotation. Here you can play around with the options. The right side plane is normal and this plane is tangent. All these options you can play around.